Good evening, and welcome to tonight's TI Technology webinar hosted by Texas Instruments. Tonight, we're really excited to share with you some new features of the TI-Nspire CX technology, just in time for back to school. My name is Mike Houston, and I'm the moderator for this event. I teach algebra and calculus near Pittsburgh, where I use TI technology to make tough to teach, tough to learn concepts accessible to all my students. I'm really excited to introduce all of our panelists tonight. Tonight we're joined by Elena Smirnova, and Elena holds a joint PhD in math and computer science from the State University of St. Petersburg, Russia, and the University of Paris. After 8 years of research in math communication and math handwriting recognition at the University of Western Ontario, in 2007, she joined Texas Instruments Education Technology in a role of math software developer, where she has been proudly making contributions to the math core of TI-Nspire products. Elena, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for the intro. So I'm very glad to be on the panel. Thank you very much for inviting me. And this is true. Being born to a family of a math teacher and a computer system engineer, I had no other choice but to become a math system software engineer. So I think it was a destiny. And I'm really glad to be in the right place and to join this particular event. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks so much. And Sean has taught AP Calculus and AP Physics, among lots of other math and science classes, at Covenant Christian High School in Indianapolis. He's been doing that since 1996. For the past 20 years, he has instructed teachers in the effective use of the TI-8384, the TI-89, and TI-Nspire since 2007, and the TI-Nspire Navigator since 2008. Sean is the father of 7 children, and he enjoys making learning fun and hands-on. Thanks so much, Sean, for joining us.
Yep, great to be here. Thanks, Mike, and it's a pleasure to be here with Elena and Gosha as well.
Thanks, Sean, and great segue to our final panelist is Gosha Brothers. She is a product manager and member of the group technical staff at Education Technology of Texas Instruments. And for over 20 years, she has been applying her knowledge and experience in math, computer algebra, and graphing environments to define pedagogical technology roadmaps. To accomplish that, she has been engaged very closely with curriculum developers, influencers, and educators worldwide. Gosha, thanks so much for being with us tonight. If you have a question for Elena, Gosha, Sean, or myself, please feel free to get those questions asked. I know we're going to try really hard to get some of those questions answered live tonight. We hope you don't have any audio issues, but in the event that you do, try selecting Communicate in the WebEx menu, choose Audio Broadcast, and then click Join. A few reminders. First, we'll provide a link to the event's certificate of attendance at the conclusion of the webinar. And second, those windows that are on the right-hand side of your screen, like the chat window, which you might be using, or the Q&A window to ask questions, those windows, once we start sharing our software, will disappear, and they'll be underneath a green floating toolbar. So once we start sharing our desktop and you see the software, there'll be a green tab. If you move your mouse under that green tab, you can bring the chat window and Q&A windows back up. At this time, Sean is going to discuss our agenda.
Yes, so we are going to be talking about what's new with the Nspire. And so whether you have the Nspire CX or the Nspire CX CAS, or even some of the older Nspires that aren't in color, you can enjoy using sliders and notes. That's where we're going to start. We'll also do some things with the relation graphing and automatic sliders in graphs, and all these things, making it easy to jump into the math, easy access to math actions with contextual menus, and being able to graph from the notes and calculator application. Excited about these things, as well as then at the very end of our time, talk about some things that are particular to the teacher software or the navigator software, including setting up the handheld so that everybody is in the same settings that you want them to be, whether it's float or radians and degrees, as well as getting them into or out of press test. And so I think you'll really enjoy these features for teachers. And then we'll give it back to Mike, and he'll talk about some online resources, and I guess there's a webinar giveaway.
Super exciting. Sean, thanks so much. And Elena is going to discuss our expected outcomes.
And basically, our mission here to be with you tonight is to help you to explore and to discover the newest feature that we proudly put in our products. We really put our hearts and our hands to them, and having Gosha and Sean completes the loop. Basically, we have a TI instructor who is a real teacher. We have one developer who does the development, and we have Gosha who is doing the design and connecting the teachers and the developers. So we have the complete circle, and hopefully three of us will be able to handle any questions from you.
This is definitely exciting. Elena, thanks so much. Sean, it's all yours.
All right, so let's take a look at a file that will be shared with you at the end. Michael will share a link, and it'll say like what's new with 4.2. I'm going to actually share a few things besides that, and so will Elena. But when you get this file, it's actually queued up to be right here in front of this slider. So what's the use of sliders in a notes page? So one example I had was, so you could just press tab, and then you could just use the arrows. You don't even have to make the little mouse move and aim and fire. If you just press tab, and then I press tab twice, as you can see by my little red thing right here, then now I'm ready to start changing that. And regarding the discriminant, when you would have a negative in there, when the 4C is larger than that, then we wouldn't get certain solutions for the quadratic. And in fact, I've got some things down below. Also, we'll be getting to that right click, that control menu for the students. I don't know if you've noticed this icon right above menu, but some people on their computer, my computer has a key that looks just like that icon, that contextual menu, control menu, or the right click is great for exploring those possibilities. So down here later on in this page, you can see some CAS functionality. And so maybe before I do that, I'll show you something that I was doing just this week. Yeah, we've already started school. So considering the slope of things, so if we wanted to actually slide this graph down a little bit so you can see 2 intersecting with a nice feature I enjoy is window zoom fit. If you have a domain, then this will, if you have the domain, then it'll come up with a corresponding range. So let's consider what's going on right here at 2. This is something I did quite recently. And how did I put a slider in there? Well, if you're in this notes page, then press menu, and yep, you've guessed it. If you want to insert a slider, it would be insert, and you go over, and since it's a new feature, then it's right there at the bottom, insert slider. And you can come up with whatever variable you like to use. I've got it queued up to use C, and you can have it going from some value to some other value. I'm going to actually start at 2.1, and the minimum, maximum, that's fine, but the step size I'm going to make fairly small, 0.01, 0.0, aim for the 0, 0.01. Also, this is a place where you can set up what kind of slider you want it to be, whether you want it to be a minimized slider, which I kind of like those minimized sliders. So here comes a minimized slider, and and it's set up to be that. And so what happens if now here I will activate that by pressing enter? So what's the difference between F1 minus F1? But what if we chose some smaller values? So as it gets closer and closer and closer and closer to 2, hey, what's going to happen when we get to 2? Undefined. That's true. So we got that close. And then if you click on it, then you can add more values. And what happens? Aha, so right now it's not 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. It's not showing that many values in there because that's the way it's set up to do on this particular one. But it is a fun tool for exploring difference quotients. So back to our little file. So let's see some of the CAS features with this. Dun, 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 dun. So if you have the privilege of enjoying using CAS, then you can see how this can factor or not factor. Actually, let me make the sliders be right there next to it. There you go. So now you can see what happens as we change this. Look how factoring or completing the squares or finding the zeros changes. And you can see, yeah, it's so fun being able to factor over the complex and on and on. One of the things that Elena will show you is how you can grab that. Oh, I must have deleted it. So the feature is undo, and I can get this back again. So if you just select this and do that control menu, then there's various math actions like completing the square and finding the polynomial. Okay, so don't want to steal too much for thunder. Oh, here's a couple more to show the difference between solve and numeric solve. Yeah, so let's go ahead and do that. So if I were to be in this math box and do that right click, you can solve or you can numerically solve. So everybody who has an Nspire can numerically solve. If you have CAS, then you can solve. So what's going on with numeric solve? Well, isn't this beautiful? It sets it up for you. So what do we want to solve for? Yes, X seems like an appropriate thing to solve for. And we can come up with a guess. And so the guess would be some sort of value. So the question is, when did cosine X equal to sine of X? And how about we just say 1? It's so wrong. How about we just search in between 0 and pi for when this is true? And yes, you can press the pi button down there and enter. So this is the beautiful thing. It sets up all the syntax for you. So all I had was sine of X equals cosine of X. And, oh, I do still need to press enter to find the answer. So the beautiful thing is it sets up all of the syntax, giving you a such that, a vertical bar, such that X is in between 0 and pi, and numeric solve, and comma, here was our guess, and there is one of the solutions for that. If I did this same thing, I'm just going to select. Hey, did you know how to select on a handheld? Hold down Shift and arrow over. So if you hold down Shift and arrow over, then it will select the portion you're interested in. And now if you did Control menu on the handheld, then Math Actions, and we could just choose Solve. And with a CAS, we can solve over the reals, and you press Enter. And now, again, when I solve, a big tip, when I solve those kind of things, I highly recommend limiting the domain. Solving from there to there. There you go. There's the one time, pi over 4, as you probably knew, because you could graph those and see that. Okay, so the next page I've got is relation graphing. This is beautiful. Okay, so it's so easy to use, so powerful. I'm just going to touch on some of the power of it. If we get your entry line, and as it says right down there, delete the equal sign in the entry line. Ready? Delete. And yay, all of these less than, equal than, greater than, and relation. So you choose relation. And what relation do you want to graph? Well, I gave you a couple of examples. How about 2x plus 3y minus 5 is equal to 6x minus 7. Oh, I don't know if anybody, if you remember this, but to make your screen full screen, if you're looking at the WebEx and it's real small in the corner, you can press the little arrows and it'll make it full size. And similarly, you can take a look at the chat and still participate with the chat. Yes, I do love CAS as well. Okay, so back to our example. So I've got this, and I've made a typo, so let's fix that before I press enter. Minus. So there you go. Well, look at that. Isn't that lovely? And how about, can you interact with this? Why, certainly you can, but it's no longer going to stay in this form anymore. So once I grab it and change the slope, then it will put it into more of our typical mx plus b. Oh, if you're wondering, what's up with this? I did something, I set this one particular document into exact. Oh, there we go. And so it was trying to hang around for exact a little bit longer than normal. So yeah, it takes it back to our beautiful being able to explore graphs. And how about this other one? How about x plus y is less than 2y plus 3? So pretty crazy looking thing. And can it do those kind of inequalities? Yep, sure can. Isn't that a beautiful inequality with a nice little dotted line because it's not less than or equal to? So those are some fun relations, and you can do so many more things with that. If you want to, here's an important tip for you. If you want to get back to not doing relations, you're like, what happened to my function? I love function notation. I agree. Function notation is beautiful. Remember the control menu, right click? So if you're up there, control menu, the first option is to change the graph entry edit. By the way, whatever you can do from control menu, you can typically do by pressing menu. So yes, if you press menu and there it is, graph entry edit, and if we wanted to go back to function, then now you're back to the function notation. So graph menu, and there's on this page it tells you that in case when you get this file and you're like, how did it go back? So there's a nice little reminder for you. Now, not all relations can be graphed at this time. So here's one that if you have the numeric-Nspire, nothing's going to show up for you because it was using a special zeros functionality. Yeah, look at the how lovely that would be. When it's one of the things I show around February 14th, a little Valentine's Day activity. We play with hearts in all their various forms. So going back over here to this numeric-Nspire, you see how with the numeric-Nspire, it doesn't do some of those CAS functionalities. And as I was saying, nothing much was graphed on this page. But everything else is working just the same way, whether you have the Nspire or the numeric-Nspire. So what about this one? So this is a fairly crazy looking thing. X plus y is equal to sine of y. All right, well, let me just do that right click on it or the control menu, and I could graph it. Boom. Whoa, look at that. So that was pretty easy to graph, wasn't it? So right click and on the handheld, control menu on the handheld, and there it is. Okay, now what's going to happen is people are going to go to a notes page and they're going to type in 2x plus y equals 5, and they're going to try to right click on it, control menu, and they're like, I don't see graph. That's right, because it needs to be in a math box. And so how do we get it in the math box? Well, press menu, and let's see, how do we insert a math box? Oh, look, there it is. And it reminds you control M. And remind you, control M. For your chemistry friends, there's some really neat chem boxes that you can do. So if I were to insert a math box, control M, then there it is, and you can type stuff in. But what if you've already taken the time to type something in and you don't want to have to retype it into a math box? Remember that shift and selected things? Yep, that works on the computer. I just held down shift and selected it. And if I press control M, now it's in a math box. And once it's in there, then I can graph it as well. So there is that relation graphed. Let's see, are there any other questions that have been coming in that need to be addressed as we're playing with this? Yeah, isn't that a beautiful one? It's getting a little busy over here, but you can graph all sorts of things, and at least for some of them, like for this last one, this parabola, yes, you can change it, and it is showing up over there.
Hey, Sean.
Yes.
Domingo did have a question. He wanted to know, where do you find the math box? So
menu, insert, and there's a reminder. Control M is right there. So MathBox is under menu options. Now you do need to be in a notes page. So if you're wondering about that, if you add a page, Control Doc, add a page, and there's notes. And similarly, if you were on the, if you're right here, then notes look like cute little notes. Add notes to that. So yes, you do need to be back to the current document for number 4. So you need to be a notes page for you to be able to do math boxes. But they're so great, and we're getting close to. Leighton's going to show us some more powerful things with math boxes, but got just a little bit further to go. Yeah, this might be about my last slide for that. So how about automatic sliders? So does that take care of that, you think, Mike? Anything else?
I don't see anything right now, so you're good to go.
A common mistake is to say mx plus b. Well, see, you can have variables that are named anything. I mean, if you like variables named after your dog, then you can have dog times x plus b. That's kind of funny, but you could. Now, the example recommends doing m times x plus b. But anyway, here we have dog times x plus b, and it says, hey, you want to create a slider for dog? Sure. And so if you press enter, so it automatically creates sliders. And it's a great tool for exploring lines as well as doing transformations. So, for example, if I were to, instead of this, what if I had the quantity x plus, I guess I'll stick with a b, and squared, and how about plus h? Yeah, some people might like to use a k, but if you did h, then now the only thing that's not described is h, and here we go, and now we can explore transformations. Since dog isn't so interesting on this anymore, then I might right-click Control Menu, and you can delete a slider that you've created. You can right-click and you can move a slider that you've created, and so I need to move this h over. And again, you can right-click on the slider. Besides delete, besides move, you can also minimize it, or just change the settings of it if you weren't satisfied with step size, for example, or the values, the range. So, for example, I think it'd probably be pleasant to go from -10 to 10 for this b that I've created. And how about a step size of just 1? Sure. And horizontal, I think I will make this one minimized. Okay, so this one is minimized, and here goes the b. What happens as we change that b? Then would you look at that? As the b increases, the function moves to the left. So exploring transformations became even easier and more powerful to do, and as we increase the h, it's moving up. Yes, doing this on the iPad is really easy and fun to do. Yeah, I love that Nspire on the iPad. So there's that, and I think I'm going to go ahead and pass the ball over to Elena.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Let me quickly switch to my document that I basically grabbed the Sean document he is going to distribute at the end of the webinar. And I'm going to show you a little bit more about what you can do on both CAS and non-CAS. Just to tease you a little bit, and probably you will be opening your eyes toward CAS if you haven't done that so. I mastered this. I prepared this little polynomial, and let's see by right-clicking onto it. So Nspire now thinks for you and for your students, not to substitute their brain, but just to give a little hint how to proceed. It shows you a few features, a few actions that it can do, and it's able to do. So, for example, finding root of a polynomial is a feature that is available on both CAS and non-CAS. And guess what? You can ask for roots either over a real domain or over a complex domain. So luckily, I was staging this example particularly to have my roots in the real domain. And guess what? By choosing an option in your menu, so again, you can select the whole expression, or you can select a part of the expression, and by having Control menu clicked on it, you will see your math actions. And on CAS version, you will see slightly more choices, but nevertheless, on numeric version, you will also see some of them that are applicable. So you will not see everything from the box. You will only see those features and those options that are applicable to this particular expression. The way we're trying to be a bit tricky here, we say try to factor because we can't guarantee that something can be factored. The rest we guarantee that we can do. By clicking on an option, you will see that a correct syntax for polyroots, in our case, will be inserted. And by hitting Enter, you will get your solution. So what else can you do with this function? Let me just copy it and paste it in a U. You can probably see by the font changing that I'm not a math box. Again, I can select it, Control M. It turned to be a math box now. And good thing, I can insert my example here. And by having that, I have a function that being assigned my quadratic expression. So what can I do with this quadratic expression while I assign it to a function? First of all, f of x. Oh, I can do same type of things because it's a function of x, and I can do zeros, and hopefully zeros will be just same as polyroots. Zeros is a CAS-only functionality, and it behaves same way on CAS. On non-CAS, you will be able to use polyroot instead. So I go back to my function definition. What can I do about that? So let's again play with the contextual help, since we developed that, and you have it at the tip, literally at the tip of your finger. Right click. It says graph. You saw it before, but isn't it nice to be able to go into the Notes application and with a single mouse click to be able to choose graph and see what is happening? You have your page being split automatically, and you have your graph being plotted for you. So you can skip all the steps by having your function being defined in the entry line of graph application. You don't have to be stuck with particular conventional f1 of x, f2 of x, and so on. You can have your own function name. And you can explore. And just to show how interactive the notes are, you can grab this parabola and open it and move it. And you can see how interactions are happening. You see your definition being updated. So I will scroll down so you can see the definition being updated according to your parabola properties that you set for it. Okay, so isn't it nice? Let me.
Yeah, I love how it's dynamic between what you're doing on the right side and then showing up there on the left side. It is so great. That's one of the things I love about Notes.
Yes, so thank you, Sean. So I will insert one more page, and here are my favorite interactive notes. So I would like to have my f of x. Again, it's not in a math box, no problem. So I will make it 1. So I will be able to recall definition in graph. So, or if I want, I can define it again, what it used to be. So I define my function. Here's my typo, my favorite typo, but that's okay. Nspire told me not to do that again, so I will try not to. So, and I will graph it again, so you can see it's right here. What can I do with my f of x? I can probably set it to equal to 0, or even better, I can set it greater than 0. So what you can do, okay, it's just a relation. It's shown. Oh, wow, Nspire says graph. What does it mean, graph? Isn't it true? So you have your parabola, and you have, I mean, blue on blue doesn't probably look as exciting, but guess what? I can probably change the color.
Good old control menu, or right click.
another contextual menu in graphs and geometry. So, and basically here's your parabola, and just to make sure where it's positive, you can see the shaded area, and you did it at one mouse click. Okay, moving on. Okay, we saw our parabola, but what if we got very adventurous and we are introducing our students to the beautiful world of polynomial of higher degree? Well, here's my little staged example again. So I wanted to introduce a generic polynomial in a shifted form. So I have an offset assigned to a parameter and a shift assigned to another parameter. And even the degree is a Mr. N. Each of these parameters will be assigned to a slider. You can, of course, have a number assigned to them directly, or I just, as a matter of, for the purpose of introducing the sliders in nodes and showing off again. So I would like to see how they can be used again. Here's my graph, how we can visualize it. It's a beautiful parabola. My degree is set to 2. This is why it's a parabola. You won't be able to manipulate it because it has parameters that are assigned to different sliders. So it's not free for you to move around like on the previous slide. But what I can do, look how beautifully I can demonstrate the property of a parabola when I change my offset, or when I can change it, my shift, along the y-axis or x-axis. And if you want to get more adventurous, go to cubic, go to higher degree polynomial, and you can probably see how similar they behave. Even if I shift them, they stay very much like each other. And it's another aspect to explore if you would like to. Or you can go back to linear, or you can go back to constant.
So having the sliders over on the other page really cleans up the graph, so you don't have sliders in the middle of what you're graphing. So before, you used to have to do a lot of work to like actually make like 2 graph pages or something like that. But now right here in notes, it's just showing right up.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Actually, I'm going to show an example where we have sliders on both sides, but it's going to be 1 tab away. Before that, I wanted to explore and dive down to the infinity.
Yes.
And it's just for fun. I set my slider to, I'm going to show you the settings. So I set it from -10 to 10. If you are really wanted to stay into polynomial world, you can set 1 or 2 as a minimum value, but I wanted to be creative, so I set it from -10 to 10, and here I can explore my even and odd degree hyperbolas and see all the asymptotes and everything. So just wanted to show you how nicely this can be done and played with the sliders. And again, sliders in nodes is a new feature. And having said that, let's jump to another example, which is probably even more exciting. So relations. We have a very standard relation that probably will remind you of a certain shape. I will not spoil it. I will just ask Nspire to plot it for me. See how lazy I got with this new contextual feature. I don't have to open my graph app anymore. I just say graph, and it does it for you, and it colors it, and it places the label. And if I have my slider, I can, you know, inflate my balloon or deflate it. So I set the slider to start from 1, actually from 0 to 50. But of course you can play. You can probably make it disappear and so on. And as I promised, I'm going to show a bit more on the graph side. So let's be creative. Let's introduce a cross term. And unfortunately, I can't hear your voices, but I would assume that you know what is going to happen when I press enter. Sean, what do you think it would be?
Well, especially since I got to see here a little bit ago, I believe it'll start off with an ellipse. So a rotated.
You're almost right. Ellipse would be only only if I knew what my D
That's
is.
true, exactly, we will.
Yeah,
So what is the D?
What is the D?
Exactly.
Let's ask Nspire what is the D, and Nspire asks you back. So what is the D? And it asks you, do you want to create a slider? Of course I want. Here's my slider. I wanted to put it right there in the bottom. I want to minimize it because it looks probably a bit nicer. So now I want to move it again. So, and let's start the fun. Let's increase the cross-term coefficient. Wow, I got 2 parallel lines. I decrease it back. I decrease it. Okay, so now cross-term becomes an ellipse. Becomes a circle, again to the ellipse, again to 2 parallel lines, and guess if I keep decreasing it, here's your Miss Hyperbola. And making it just, so of course I wanted to have more options for my slider, so I have more freedom to show off and see how nicely, and of course you can play with your radius slider on the other side, and here you are. So you can make your hyperbola as skinny, tiny looking, pretty looking, back to ellipse, back to hyperbola, and it all depends which see the step size automatically is set to automatic. No pen intended, so automatically to automatic. So if I want it to be particular value for my purpose, it should be 1. So here you are. And so I can observe how nicely it changes. So let's make it back to an ellipse. And probably you, if you ever explored conics section feature, that was available on previous releases, we didn't have relations, so now you can see a shaded region, which and of course I can do that just to continue showing off. Okay, I can inverse it, and if I wanted to do my my ellipse, and if I wanted to explore a little bit about it, so I can say analyze graph, and since it's a conics section, I can do my foci or foci, depends which country you're speaking to. So yes, and it will do the property, not to clutter the screen, I will undo it quickly. Control Z is your best friend if something is done purposely or not. So I can compute my eccentricity, and here's the value. You can place it anywhere you like and have a label for it. So, and basically again, and of course I'm changing the radius, and the values will be recomputed.
So Elena, everybody, you can't hear everybody, but there's this oohs and ahs going on around the world right now, and you are getting some some chatter in the in the chat window. People are saying, "Cool, awesome, mind blown." And so yes, this is definitely some beautiful examples of the power of the sliders, as well as being able to graph relations. Relations are so much fun. The freedom to be able to graph anything you want. And again, sliders are so easy to use. You can just press tab and use the arrows left and right. The students don't even have to necessarily move over and click a particular thing or grab the slider. The ease of use of sliders is a wonderful joy.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you. It's like a honey on my heart since we've been deeply and heavily involved with making that happen. So it's really great to see people appreciating it. And Gosha, who is with us, she was just driving the whole thing from zero to finish. So the whole beauty happened thanks to her. So, and the last but not least, since we have a couple of minutes to spare, I would like to, so I showed you how interactive our interactive node became, but let's not forget our good old calculator. So if you ever used Nspire in the decades before, so you will know that there is such a thing as a calculator, and of course you'll be able to type things. You don't need a math box. Calculator has a history, and you'll be able to, for example, oh my goodness, it says recall definition and graph. Oh wow, I can graph from the calculator. Isn't nice? So not only nodes are privileged, but the calculator, it also has this wonderful feature. By the way, the Scratchpad, as a matter of fact, might have this feature as well. It doesn't have f of x defined, but if I do, I'll do something very, well, actually, I'll do something less simple. Once I define it, I can graph it even in Scratchpad. So, so this functionality of graphing from a definition of a function is available across the app. And now what I would like to, yeah, by the way, you still will be able to play with your parabola, but because calculator doesn't have this interaction, what we call dynamic linking with other apps in Nspire, you won't be able to see the instant updates. However, it doesn't mean that calculator knows nothing about the changes. I want to remind you about a very simple feature of calculator that is probably not as popular as others, but we have actions. And one of the first, actually, that I have to be in the calculator, actions, and it says recall definition. Recall definition will list all the functions that I have defined in my current problem. And if I want to choose my f, here's your definition. So I will slide it over, and you will see that this, I can change the view. So you can see that my parabola is being updated. I mean, my parabola definition is being updated according to my recent changes in the graph app.
So do that. That's pretty. So do that. Change it back to where we can see the handheld, the handheld on the side view.
Absolutely.
So what you just did was, well, you hit the tools, but all of those were under menu, right? So if you press menu, then you saw the actions.
That is correct.
So there
yes,
it is, and so we can see that a little bit bigger. So you did menu actions, and you chose.
I have to be in the calculator, not in the graph.
There, yeah. So that is a tricky thing about doing two screens. You're like, which one am I on? Because different menu options for different things.
Menu for the calculator will bring you to actions and recall definition. Thank you very much, Sean. It really proves that you do use the tool rather than read the manual. So yes, I agree. It's much more visible, especially if you're presenting to a class. I agree.
So go ahead and do that, your recall definition, so we can see how it changed one more time.
Okay, my F. And
so,
just want to make sure.
So I think that, yep, so that works on the numeric Nspire as well. Personally, what I would do, could you pop back up to your calculator?
Absolutely.
And there it is. Now, if you, so I like just pressing var.
Yes, correct. So but then you will have to choose your variables. So,
yep.
And
then the thing is if you press, if you do f of x, then this is only a CAS. So if you press enter, however, of course, if you do f of 2 or 3, then that is a numeric thing that'll give you, or 56, then that'll give you, or 56, then that's something that definitely they can do. So that is a nice feature that's been around for a while, but yeah. So let's continue showing us the fun things on a calculator page that's new to us. Let's see what she can do.
Yes, this is very true. So, and by the way, so I just did what Sean recommended. So I recall the var. So basically, recall definition gives you the list of functions, but var gives you the list of all variables, functions, and programs, if you happen to create any. And you will see I have a plenty. So if I wanted to see, oh, by the way, it has a relation to, which was probably something to do with my either circle or ellipse or hyperbola, so I can do that, and I don't have to evaluate it. Note, this is available on non-CAS as well. On numeric version, you can right-click or menu, control menu, and it says recall definition and graph. You don't have to be in CAS. It just brings it back. And in order to know what your D is, or your R is, or you can create the sliders and they will be set accordingly. So just want to bring some attention back to our old good chap calculator who was probably forgotten for no good reason. Yes, interactive notes are stealing a lot of attention, a lot of glory, for a reason, I should say, because of all the sliders and all of the interaction that you can do with them. But of course, the calculator is also a thing to be used And especially what I like about the calculator, interactive notes results will change as you go. The notes, the calculator history remains a history. You can't rewrite the history. So you can see all of the changes that you created. And if you're embarrassed of any of them, just select a line and click delete. The line will disappear. So just want to make sure that if it's engraved in history, it doesn't mean that you can delete it from there. You can change it, but you can erase it. And that's pretty much it. That concludes all of my show off time. And back to Sean.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it. Let's see. Oh, waiting for that. So I have a couple more exciting things that are new let's see, share my screen. Oh, okay. So in fact, Kim Thomas was just talking about one of those new features. And so recapping, so yes, you can do this. I am now using the numeric Nspire, the TI-Nspire CAS teacher software, and wanted to point out that math box thing. So you know how if you select it, then if you right-click, one of the options is convert that to a math box. And once you've converted to a math box, then you can graph it from the notes page. And yes, as we were taking a look, it does automatically update on both of them, which was a beautiful feature. And we looked at that. Now, what am I showing you here? What is this screen? This screen, which will be on 4.1. Yes.
Sean, I don't know if you're sharing because we can't see a screen.
I can.
Yep, I'm good.
Oh, okay, good. Sorry.
Okay. You might need to, if you wanted to make it bigger, there's that little arrow again.
Like on YouTube.
So this screen right here is called as you can see, this little beaker, well, more of a Erlenmeyer flask, this Vernier data quest. So that's what we're looking at right here, back to the current document number 4. So we are looking at a Vernier data quest. If you added a page, if you change the menu to press menu view, and we're looking at the table, which is as easy as actually just clicking this down here. So I think this is a beautiful function that a lot of teachers don't know. I think algebra students and teachers would love this because they deal a lot of times in X and Y. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click this, or I can move the arrow over and press enter. So yes, you can use the arrows to move around a bit. And we look at this graph. And would you look at that? It did a nice little integral of it to the area under that curve. So if you were to select a certain region to do that integral, then a new feature is you can press escape to deselect a region. That's a new feature that I'm very thankful for, but other people probably never knew or missed it. So now moving on to what's new on the teacher software and the navigator. Well, all you got to do is press tools. And this was already started to be discussed in there, a feature that we like to do as a teacher with a classroom set is we like to clear the scratch pad. So let's say you have first period algebra and then you have second period algebra, and you don't want them to all see the things that the students were doing on their scratch pad the period before. You can clear the scratch pad. Boom, just click it and it's all gone. And with the teacher software, there is something that would be helpful for that, and that would be the docking station. So here's some quick little visual aids of what the docking station looks like. So if you searched Nspire docking station, then you can get that. So it was under, again, tools and prepare the handhelds. So what else do we have here? We've got set the default document settings. So let's take a look here. I'm using this. So we got TI factory default. Let me go back to my world that I typically live in, my navigator. So if I come over here to my prepare handheld, set up the default, I've got 2 of them already set up. I've got my calculus class is in radians, and for my physics class, we're in degrees. And I'm a big fan of float instead of float 6. And so all I got to do is send it to the students, and boom, they've got it in just a matter of seconds. That they've got it all set up so that we're ready to do calculus, and everybody's in radians and everybody's in float. That is a beautiful new feature. So again, tools, prepare the handhelds. I did see somebody asked about deleting all of the files in the chat a second ago, and yeah, one way is to collect the documents. So is there a way? Is there an option to delete from the handheld? And there is. Well, I guess a couple of things I want to say about that. Transfer tool. If you're not if class is not in session, then I could do transfer tool. But if class is in session, which interesting, yeah, so class is not in session, then if you just collected a single file back from everybody, then you can delete that file at the same time. I better begin class. So if I collected a document, then at the same time that I collected, I can delete that one document. But that's, I don't think, answering what you were wanting to do. You want to delete everything that's on there, perhaps. And so the answer to that would be to use the tools, there it is, the transfer tool. And when you transfer something, there it is, delete all files and folders. But that's been there for a while. The new feature that a lot of teachers who have used Press to Test, and if we were face-to-face, I'd probably ask you what's some of the value of Press to Test, and teachers would probably say things like, again, if you're teaching one class and you give a test, and then in the next class you're given that test, and you want to not only delete what might be on a scratch pad, but maybe on a current document, then using Press to Test. So let's take a look at enter Press to Test. But it's so easy to exit Press to Test now with this latest operating system. Getting out of Press to Test is so great. So it's also, I love how simple it is to just put them into Press to Test, or on some tests, you don't want them to have the log base B. So I have used Press to Test before because I didn't want the students to have access to the answers the previous student was using, and so I've had them go into Press to Test and out of Press to Test. It's not something that they have to do for the PSAT or ACT or those AP exams, but some state tests requires, and some teachers, it's a handy tool. So here's all the things that you can limit or not limit, and if you had a favorite way of configuring it, then you can save that configuration of having it. Oh, and this is also great. When they're getting into Press to Test, it's one more reminder to make sure that they are in degrees or radians or whatever the preference is. If you're teaching trig and pre-calculus, what's going on in that season of the year? Do you want them to all be in degrees? And so there's one way to do it. And so I think that's it for all the things to show you. And yep, that's about the right time to send it back to Mike.
Thanks so much, Sean and Elena. There are a few things that I definitely want to show you on our website. Pretty early on tonight, I think we got some questions about if you need to update your handheld or your software in order to take advantage of some of these new features, and the answer is probably yes. So I want to show you how to do that. So if you visit our website, education.ti.com, we'll bring up our home page. And if you look under the Downloads tab, and the first choice is App, Software, and Updates, you can select your technology. So for instance, say it's the TI-Nspire CAS, and then view, say, the handheld operating system. You'll find that the most recent operating system is 4.2, which is what is being used tonight. So you can download the newest operating system and put that on your handhelds. The other thing I wanted to show is, let's say you're not sure how to do that, or it's been a long time since you tried to update some of your handhelds and you want some help. Under the Professional Development tab, if you go under Webinars and Tutorials, on the lower right side of your screen, there are Technology Tutorials. And our friends over at Atomic Learning have created some really great tutorials for TI-Nspire technology. So I'm going to slide down under the Basics. And I believe number 12 is updating the handheld OS. It's just under a 2-minute video. Again, free. You can watch as many times as you need. So maybe before the school year starts or as the school year is starting and you want to update your handheld so they all have the same most recent operating system. You could take a look at that even some other stuff like using the scratch pad I know was brought up tonight. So there's lots of really great short videos from Atomic Learning that you could find here. Also under webinars and tutorials, a few people tonight were asking, well, how do I view this particular webinar again? And you can look under the on-demand webinars. All the webinars that we've ever put on since, I think, 2010 have been archived and recorded, so you can filter them by a technology or a topic. And this is a great way to extend your professional development and learning. So for instance, tonight's webinar will eventually be listed on the on-demand webinars. It'll take a few days, but you'll automatically also receive a link in your email within a couple of days with a link to the recording, a link to the documents, as well as a link to the certificate of attendance as well. Because I know that both Sean and Elena went pretty fast with a lot of these new features, so a lot of times it's really helpful to be able to watch the recording again at your own pace, so we want to make sure you have the ability to do that.
Right, Michael. I think the speed of presentation was a price to pay for the the number of the features that we pulled in this release. So it's unavoidable that we had to speed up, but we wanted everyone to see what is new.
I agree. Thanks so much, Elena. We do have a lot of upcoming webinars, so if you liked tonight's webinar and the format of tonight, feel free to, again, to check out our website, and under the webinars and tutorials tab, there was a live webinars option, and that will give you a list of all the future webinars we have coming up through the end of November. So please feel free to check those out and register for any of them that you see fit. Also, whenever you leave the webinar, a brief survey will automatically appear in your browser, and your feedback truly guides us as we plan future online events and as we try to improve our product. So it's great having Elena and Gosha on tonight because those two wonderful women are truly involved in trying to make the products that you use in the classroom better. And I saw a few people on tonight commenting that every update that we offer improves the product, and with each update, those updates usually come from feedback we receive from you. So you share your thoughts, we listen, and then we try to accommodate you as best we can. So an extra special thanks to Elena and Gosha for doing that for us, because it's made my life in the classroom so much easier.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
To receive a certificate of attendance, please go ahead and click that link in the chat window. Also listed below is a link for the documents that were used tonight. So the documents that Elena and Sean used, as well as the documents that I used, will all be listed there in that documents link. If it's not working or you happen to miss it, again, have no fear, you'll automatically receive a certificate and documents and a link to the recording in an upcoming email within a few days. One thing that I wanted to point out that I lost a slide for is Sean mentioned earlier that we have tonight a webinar giveaway. One lucky winner tonight is winning a T-Cubed International Conference registration. And tonight's lucky winner is John Ditzel. So John, congratulations. We'll be in touch over email within the next coming days. So John, we hope to see you at the T-Cubed International Conference coming up in Chicago. I know I'll be there. I'm pretty sure Sean will be there. And who knows, you might even see Elena or Gosha there. I'm not sure. If you happen to have some questions that were asked tonight that didn't get answered, we tried to answer all the questions, but again, if there were a few that didn't get answered, or if you have any questions that come up in the future, please feel free to contact us either by phone or by email. Thanks so much, Elena, Gosha, and Sean, for being on tonight and sharing all of your expertise with us. I know that I really appreciate it. I think there's a few others as well that could feel the same way. So thanks so much for everything tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael, for hosting and for having us. It's a true pleasure.
No problem. Thanks so much, everyone, again, and we hope to see you back online next week.
Okay,
Have
bye.
a great day.
Till then.